Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa.
And hello again, everybody, and welcome into the latest edition of Tider Insider Television alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris, and we're going to begin tonight again with Alabama football, Rodney, because I know last week we had the A-Day scrimmage wrap, but that was not the final practice, that A-Day scrimmage on a week ago Saturday. It was the 13th practice. Alabama actually wrapped up spring drills last week with 2 more practices. And Rodney, the feedback I've gotten from some folks that I've talked to over there is they love this. They love that they scrimmaged in front of the fans on Saturday, but then not only were able to make corrections, but we're able to get back out on the football field and have a couple of more spirited practices to wrap up spring.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's been unusual to do it that way around here. I mean, they've done it in the past a few times, not very often, but again, a lot of coaching staffs around the country, Gary, do that. I think it can, serve as a lot of benefits to that. But I think overall, when you look at this spring, it sounds like, based on the feedback we've gotten, based on the opportunities we've had to watch them, including the A-Day scrimmage that they had, the practice that they had. I think this team physically looks really, really good. I know they have a lot of new faces, but I think there's a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, and I think there's a lot of potential on this team. All
right, we've discussed this all spring, but now with spring practice in the books, I want to ask you again about the quarterbacks. Kalen Russell, I thought, really showed out in the A-Day scrimmage, but there were 14 other practices. And Coach DeBoer made it clear after the scrimmage that these 2 quarterbacks are still even, that if you took out the best plays of Austin Mack, it'd be a highlight reel as well. So we don't feel any closer to settling this quarterback competition, in my opinion, Rodney, than we did when we were going into spring. What about you?
Yeah, look, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the other practices, the other scrimmages. Again, this was one scrimmage A-Day. There's no question about it. Kalen Russell showed a ton of talent. We raved about him last week. Austin Mack had a really good spring as well, as you said, Gary. And again, I think it is a pretty close race right now. There's not a ton of separation. I think when you look at Austin Mack, the fact that he's been in the system, now he doesn't have a lot of experience, but he does have a lot of experience in the system, practicing with it now going on year 4. I think there's probably some things that he manages better, but there's no question about Kalen Russell's talent. I mean, this guy's extraordinarily gifted. Both of them are. But when you look at Kalen Russell, I think we saw why a lot of people thought he might have been the best high school quarterback in the country.
Whichever quarterback wins the starting job, he's going to be working behind an inexperienced offensive line, Rodney. Let me ask you about that. It feels like we got a pretty good idea. Now, William Sanders, of course, missed a lot of time during the spring, but it feels like we got a pretty good idea on the starting 5. Would you feel that way?
I think like you said, when Will Sanders gets back at that left guard, I think certainly he's going to compete really hard there. I think, obviously Jackson Lloyd at left tackle had a fantastic spring. I think Rayson Delgado coming in from Cal Poly did a nice job. I think he's maybe solidified himself a little bit there at the right guard with Michael Carroll moving inside, Javen James, the Mississippi State transfer at right tackle. That's, if you want to say right now, the guys I would project as starters and think have a great opportunity to close those deals in August, I think that would be my 5.
All right, let me ask you this, because I've been around coaches. We've covered them for many, many years. They will tell you it isn't, you don't show up in August at fall camp and have a successful season. It's what you do in the winter workouts, spring, and yes, even during the summer. Guys working on their own, working with the strength and conditioning coaches. How important are the next 3 months for what is going to happen during the season in 2026?
Yeah, I would think right now with the season going into January as it did, and then, you have your 4th quarter program or the winter workouts, and then you have spring practice. I think right now probably Gary's rest. Mm-hmm. Get those bodies healthy, rest. It was a long season, and I think now moving into the summer, when you start the summer workouts, those are obviously extremely important because you're making preparations for that August camp. Mm-hmm. I think 7-on-7, those types of things, the workouts that they do, certainly prepare them to have a good August camp to be ready to go when that gets here.
And before we get to coach talk, recruiting is full speed for 2027. We're used to seeing Alabama at the top of the recruiting rankings. That's not the case right now, but they've got a lot of official visitors. You broke it down on TiderInsider.com coming in here over the next few months.
Yeah, I think, here at the end of at the end of May. It'll run into 3-4 weeks into June. They're going to have visitors here every week. They've got nearly 40 already set up, Gary. We did a positional breakdown on how it is now. Now, again, they're going to add some to the list, and maybe there might be a few that drop off the list. But right now, I mean, you look at it, and some people are questioning why only 3 defensive linemen, only 1 offensive lineman. I think those are 2 areas. They may not sign as many on the high school level. And, Gary, you almost wonder, could there be a little bit of a shift in philosophy?
Waiting on the portal.
Exactly. I think when you look at what they did in the portal on the offensive line this past period, and then also on the defensive line, you might see a little bit more shift in that regard.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the way they're looking at it. Hey, we can, pick up guys with experience in the portal, and sometimes that is crucial in the modern-day game of college football. Well, now it's time for Coach Talk. After A-Day, Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer met with the media. He discussed the importance, of course, of the quarterback competition, but regardless of who the quarterback is, he stressed they have got to have a trusted running game on offense this season. Coach says that there are times in the game where you just need to be able to run that football and wear down your opponent. That's music to Alabama fans' ears.
There's times where, in a game you try to have the approach of wearing down. You work plays off of plays. You're going out there and it's 1s and 2s and, you're back and forth. So sometimes it's even hard for me to sit back there and think about what group had the most consistency. A couple seams at times that I remember, I think, with the 1s, and that's really who you're trying to hone in on. Both sides of the ball, trying to keep it simple to get guys out there. So there's more complexity that you can have with the defensive scheme. So there's more things that you can do offensively as well. But I think there's a few things that we can hang our hat on that we can execute well.
Alabama fans, they want to be able to run the football. I don't care how good the quarterback is. I don't care how many yards you throw for. And I think that is a sound philosophy. There are times in the game where you want to wear the other team down. You're milking a lead. You don't want to necessarily put the ball in the air and potentially have a turnover. Alabama, I think you and I agree, really needs to be able to run the football more effectively than they had the first 2 seasons under Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, certainly. I think there are times, Gary, when you have to be able to physically take the game over at the line of scrimmage. In the SEC, I think that's one thing, hopefully, that they're going to continue to work on to improve. I think Adrian Clem, the new offensive line coach, that's kind of his philosophy. If you listen to him talk, you go back to interviews when he was at other places, that's one thing he really stressed was what he believed in was lining up physically and knocking the other guy off the ball. That's Alabama football.
Yeah, I remember Jim Bob Held, who's your offensive line coach, and Des Franchione. We were talking to him about technique, and he's no technique. God, when you just line up, knock the what out of it.
He was right.
Sometimes that's the truth.
Yep.
All right, let's get to basketball. We know Nate Oates knows how to build a roster. We've seen it since he got to Tuscaloosa, before NIL, since NIL, and the portal recruiting. But Alabama knows that it's got to hit the portal and it's got to get bigger. He said that after the loss to Michigan in the NCAA Sweet 16, well, they're doing that. The latest commitment from the portal, Drew Fielder, 6'11", 225 pounds, from Georgetown initially, then Boise State. This guy, 14.7 points, 5.7 rebounds. He can shoot it outside. He can mix it up under the basket. They also landed commitments, of course, from Brandon Garrison, 6'10", from Kentucky, and Jamarian Davis-Fleming, 6'10", from Mississippi State, as well as a shooter, 6'8", wing Cole Clower from North Carolina State. Not done yet. But, boy, we were thinking there for a while. Well, when's it going to happen in the portal? Now this class is shaping up very nicely.
I think it is. Listen, I hear a lot of people say, well, Garrison and Davis-Fleming weren't very productive point-wise, rebound-wise. Yeah, but listen, those guys are very athletic. You look at Garrison, there's some people that think he might be one of the most athletic big men that Alabama's brought in here in a while. And certainly the addition of Drew Fielder. I mean, he's a guy that was really productive. Now, he averaged close to 15 points a game this last season. And you mentioned, Gary, his versatility. He can play down low. He's got the ability to shoot the ball. And Clower, he's a sharpshooter, man. I know he was hurt this year as a freshman at NC State. He redshirted, but he's a guy, high school, he can really load it up.
Of course, it's always important to keep your best players, too, from going into the portal or the draft. Amari Allen did declare for the draft, but he did so maintaining his eligibility. Now, 7 points and 11 rebounds as a freshman at Alabama. This guy's going to play in the NBA. The question is when. Rodney, he's getting a first-round grade from a lot of the draft analysts. The thing is, so did Phylon last year, but you want to be in the lottery. If you're not going to be in the lottery, I think you got to look at coming back and really having a big sophomore season and adding value for next year.
I agree with you 100%, Gary. I think coming back, developing, I mean, if you're a borderline first-round guy, you come back, you saw what Philon did. He kind of raised his stock. And I think the same thing with Amari Allen. Hopefully he makes that decision to come back to be a big coup for Alabama.
Yeah, he comes back and has the normal progression that you would expect from a player at his talent level. I mean, you could be looking at 16, 17 points a game and 8, 9 rebounds a game next year. And then possibly on to the NBA draft. I think he'll come back. We will see. Well, still to come on Tider Insider Television, Alabama softball was looking to bounce back in a home series against Kentucky after they had lost to Samford last week for the first time since 1997. Boy, did they ever bounce back. And Alabama baseball, was falling hard at Texas. They had 5 losses in a row, but they came back Sunday and gutted it out 2-1. Could have won the series, but at least they snapped that SEC losing streak to get to 9-9 in the league. We'll break down both sports when we come back, and we'll be getting your phone calls, emails, and tweets. The phone number on the Decades Pub and Grub hotline, as always, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. We want to hear from you, Tider Insider Nation. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide and has been doing so for 26 years. We'll be right back after this. And welcome back to TITV, presented by Visit Tuscaloosa. Go to visittuscaloosa.com. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Alabama baseball, well, we talked about it last week. Momentum in this league can be snatched away from you. Alabama had a ton of momentum going into the Arkansas series at home. They got swept, had their 18-game home field winning streak snapped. They did win the midweek game last week at Regis Field against UAB, but then went to Texas this weekend, lost handily on Friday night. It was Tyler Fay, not one of his better outings. But then on Saturday, got a great start from Zane Adams. Should have probably won that game, had a chance to win it, but they didn't. So they go into Sunday, 5 SEC losses in a row, on the verge of being swept. Had many opportunities to put that game away, but they got the wins, the bottom line. Showed some guts. They wound up winning on Sunday 2-1. Here's the thing that jumps out at you, though, Rodney. There is 81 outs in 3 games, 9-inning games, 27 a game. Alabama, in those 81 outs, struck out 49 times. Now, they won one of the games.
Incredible stat.
It is. I think 19 times on Saturday.
We need to find out if that's a record.
It's got to be right there. So, but again, I want to give them credit because they had chances to fold again on Sunday. They had a 2-0 lead late. Texas gets a run in the ninth, gets a runner on second with 1 out, and Alabama at least got that 1 win to kind of to stop the bleeding, so to speak.
It's always good to beat Texas, I can tell you. Right. It's the first win over Texas in 122 years, she tells me.
Yeah,
so
keep in mind they hadn't played that many times.
That's right. They've only played, 15 times total?
Texas has had their number.
That's right. But, again, I think, like you said, Gary, to be able to, get that win was really important. And, again, they were very competitive on Saturday.
Playing UAB again tonight after the midweek game at Regis Field last week. Not a good start. Bama's down 7-0 early over at the Joe. Highlights coming up at 9. Bama goes to Tennessee this weekend. For a 3-game set in baseball. Tennessee's kind of been scuffling around a little bit. And softball will go to Tennessee as well. All right, let's get to softball because last week, something we never expected to see. Alabama lost to Samford in the midweek game over in Homewood. The first time since 1997, Alabama's first season as a program. But they didn't let it carry over. They came home against a Kentucky team that only had 1 win in the SEC, and they took care of business. Now, they had 1 game on Saturday now where they won in a walk-up, but the other 2 they won handily. The bottom line is now they've got 4 losses overall. They're 15-3 in the SEC and tied for Oklahoma for first place in the conference.
Man, what were they projected early before the season? 7th?
6th, 7th, 8th, somewhere
9th,
there, yeah.
Whatever. What a season they're having. They're on a record pace here, Gary. I think they've got a chance to get close to maybe their most win total since 2020, but they're on a real roll here. Fantastic job. I mean, this team is, they've been hot since the start.
Yeah, they got a chance to win it all.
Yeah.
They've got a team that can win it all. They're playing UAB tonight in Birmingham, and the 6th inning, Bama leads 4-0. We mentioned they lost to Samford last week for the first time since '97. They've never lost to UAB. And right now, it looks as though they're not going to do it tonight as well. Well, still to come on TITV, Pauline Love and Alabama women's basketball. Cranking it up in the portal. Man, adding some big-time talent for the Alabama roster for 2026-2027. And up next, your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the phone number on the Decades Pub and Grub hotline, 205-348-9882. Go ahead and give us a call. We want to hear from our Alabama fans out there tonight here in Alabama. So give us a call. We'll be right back with more TITV after this timeout. Rodney and I love doing this show. We really do, but we love it even more when we get phone calls. And right now, we are open on our phone line. So if you've ever said, I can't get through, this is your opportunity. 205-348-9882 on the Decades Pub and Grub hotline. We are wide open. So give us a call and let us know what you think about Alabama sports. Our Alabama's women's basketball heating up in the transfer portal, signing 3 transfers over the weekend, more on the way. Pauline Love, that was her MO. Hey, listen, she's a great recruiter. She knows where the talent's at around the country, and she's adding it. Lindenwood transfer guard Brooke Coffey, 6'1", 12.2 points, 7.2 rebounds. Alabama also announced the signing of Louisiana Tech transfer guard Paris Bradley, 5'9", 14.8 points, 5 rebounds per game, 3 assists, 2 steals. And Cincinnati transfer Kylie Torrance, 6'2". As a freshman, she averaged 7.7 points per game and 6.9 rebounds this past season. So not only is Coach Love bringing in players, she's bringing in players that have put up some really nice numbers at their other schools. All right, let's get to our email question of the day, since we do not have a phone call, which is disappointing to me. Our email question today is brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. When it comes to heating and air conditioning, serving your family like our family. All right, Rodney, let's see what we got for. It's from Miranda in Tuscaloosa. Is Aden Holloway still on the basketball team? Yes, he is on the roster. Now, Rodney, we've talked about this. We don't know what's going to happen because he's got legal issues clearly that could impact his future, whether it's here or anywhere else. But this is just my opinion, okay? I feel like that Coach Oates has a great relationship with Aden. He's committed to him, and they're going to see how this thing plays out. And if it plays out legally where he can still play basketball, I feel like it's going to be at Alabama.
Well, today's the end of the portal, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, that if we don't hear anything on him hitting the portal, which you would think if he was going to leave, we would hear something, right? So I think you've summed it up.
Yeah, so we will see. Again, I don't want to jump the gun on anything because the legal system has to have, he deserves due process, but it has to run its course. But I feel like there's a good chance that he could be playing for Alabama next season. Listen, we talked about those guys that are bringing in. They need a point guard, and if they were to lose him, they would desperately need one. All right, let's get to another email question. This is from Garrett in Sylacauga. Does Coach DeBoer have veto power over Ryan Grubb? Rodney, I think every head coach probably does to some degree, but I don't, listen, we've talked about the relationship that Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer share. It's close. I doubt very seriously that there's many times when Kalen DeBoer overrides a play call from Ryan Grubb.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think he's that's the thing. He trusts Ryan Grubb. He's been with him for years. They've had a lot of success together. Ryan Grubb ran things at Washington in terms of the offense. Kalen DeBoer has full trust in Ryan Grubb. And, I'm like you, Gary. I think he allows him to call his game.
All right, thanks for those 2 emails. Still to come on Tider Insider Television. Alabama in the NFL update as the Houston Texans have given Will Anderson Jr. a record-setting contract. Well, Bama in the NFL, it pays, doesn't it? It pays well. And listen, phone calls are welcome. Phone lines are open. I may call on the break during my phone and just to make sure it's working. But 205-348-9882 is that number. Where are our Tider Insider callers tonight? Give us a ring and get on with us on the program. We'll be right back in 2 minutes here on TITV. And welcome back to TITV, and our great callers have responded, listeners and viewers. We've got radio, TV, we got it all covered. Tubbs in Tuscaloosa is going to be with us here on the Decades Pub and Grub hotline. Hey, Tubbs, how are you?
Good. I'll be glad when you guys have an hour show. I couldn't go through it so fast.
Well, thank you. We get more phone calls when we go to an hour. What's going on, man?
Rodney, the defensive player, generally a linebacker, calls the defensive setup. Who do we have, you think, that would be that guy?
Tubbs, I think that's a really good question because you lost those guys last year. You lost Deontay Lawson, who'd been around for a while. I think, again, you look at Caleb Woodson He's been around for a while in terms of college football. He hadn't been here. He's been at Virginia Tech, got a lot of experience, was very productive, a very smart player. I would think as a transfer, he's a guy that certainly would be the one that I would expect. Now, look, I think QB Reese is a really smart player as well, Gary. He's a very instinctive player. He may win that other spot. I think he's capable because of his intelligence to be able to set the defense. Mm-hmm. But, you know, some of the young players have made a lot of progress. We talked about all those young linebackers that they have. But right now, I would say Tubbs probably Caleb Woodson.
All right. Thank you for that phone call, Tubbs. Thanks for the emails as well. Still to come, he was an SEC shot put champion for the Alabama Crimson Tide, but now he is being called the next big thing in sports entertainment in the WWE. We'll have that story. And it's a beautiful evening here in the City of Champions. We'll come back after this. Last week, the Texans and edge rusher Will Anderson Jr. announced a contract extension, 3 years, $150 million. Today, they signed that deal. It makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history with an average annual value that's resetting the market for elite pass rushers. He passed Micah Parsons' record deal at $46.5 million, so $50 million a year added on to his current contract. And $134 million of that's guaranteed. Now, he's going to get it all because this guy can play. You also see something in this contract you rarely see in the NFL for non-quarterbacks, and that's a no-trade clause. So he's going to be kept under contract to the Texans now with both of his current deal and the extension through 2030. Rodney, you and I covered him here at Alabama. He is a class act on the field, off the field, the way he carries himself. He's 24 years old. Maturity-wise, he's going on about 40. And as a football player, he is devastating.
I remember when he was coming out of high school, Gary, he came to an Alabama camp. I got a call and said, look, there's a lot of big-time players here, none bigger than Will Anderson. And think about this, Georgia didn't even offer him.
I was just going to say, remarkable. Kirby didn't miss on many, but he missed on him. Boy, what a great football player. Bam, in the NFL, it pays big. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Tider Insider Television. We appreciate you tuning in. A reminder, you catch a replay tonight at 10:30 or anytime at WVOA23.com. Now, we're going to leave you with some video of former Alabama shot putter Isaac Odubasan, who you may know now as WWE's Oba Femi. Femi defeated Brock Lesnar on Sunday at WrestleMania 42 in Las Vegas. That's right. He took down the Beast. He looks like he's going to be the new Beast, the next big thing in sports entertainment. Good night, everybody.